So I just shared a reel that was 13 tips for witches, whether you're a wildling, a creator, or a sage, and I wanted to just kind of expand upon that a little bit here. So the first tip was to establish your belief system. In Mumbles Academy, we kind of follow along with the Hermetic principles of magic. That's what I believe in and how I can explain how magic works to others. That's my belief system, but I think it's important to really understand your own beliefs and why you think magic works and why you think spells work. And so that's the first thing, and then also to assess that every so often. About once a year is really what I like to do, but you know, as frequently as you think is necessary. The second tip is to understand the history of witchcraft, including its roots in oppression of people who are outside of the status quo and pagan practices in general, as well as the way that colonialism has influenced modern witchcraft. So learning that, finding reliable and well-researched resources that will teach you about the history of witchcraft can be really helpful. The third tip that I gave was to make note of where you are now on your witchcraft journey and where you're trying to get to as well. So in Mumbles Academy, we talk about this in terms of your witch profile, which is who you are. You assess your stats, you assess your skills and your interests and all of these different things of who you are right now. And then who you want to be, we look at that in terms of a be, do, and have list. What do you want to be, what do you want to do, and what do you want to have? And then figuring out how you can use magic and witchcraft to map that distance, to map that journey between where you are and where you want to get to. The fourth tip that I shared was to start thinking about things, learn everything you can with a beginner's mind. So keeping the enthusiasm and the excitement and the open-mindedness that a beginner approaches learning with, no matter how long you've been practicing witchcraft or how much you think you know, there's always more to learn, and approaching it in this way is really helpful for making sure you actually assimilate it and you're open to it. The fifth tip I shared in that was to integrate your light self with your shadow self through self-acceptance and learning more about who you are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and how these can both be gifts and shortcomings, how sometimes our strengths can cause us hardships and how sometimes our weaknesses can be a gift. The sixth tip I shared was about keeping a record of your practice, keeping a grimoire or a book of shadows that will show you exactly how you've evolved over the years for as long as you practice. And it's really fun to look back on those first few grimoires that you create for yourself and seeing the things that you believed in and how things have changed for you as your practice evolves. So keeping a grimoire is one of the best tips I can give you. The seventh tip I shared was to practice self-care, and not just self-care for your physical body, not just self-care for your mental health and your emotional health, but also spiritual self-care. Learning how to take care of your needs after practicing witchcraft and using that magical energy, how to replenish that, the importance of self-care and why it's not selfish. So learning about self-care and starting to practice that is really important as well. The eighth tip I shared was to learn energy work practices like grounding, centering, and shielding so that you can recycle your energy, so that you know how to bring your energy in, and so that you know how to protect your energy from outside influences that maybe will harm you and at least won't be helpful to you. The ninth tip is to learn about cleansing and charging and how this is sort of like out with the old and in with the new, cleansing things of energy you no longer want them to hold, and you can also cleanse people and spaces as well as things, and then charging places with the energy you want them to hold, charging objects and enchanting them with your power, and as well as charging people, which is more like blessing people with confidence or beauty or love or anything like that. So cleansing and charging is tip number 9. And then tip number 10 is learning how to visualize, not just with your sight, your sense of sight, but with all 5 of your senses. Visualize is not really the greatest word, but it's pretty common that people use this word to describe the process. So using all 5 of your senses, not just your sense of sight, but also your sense of smell, taste, touch, and sound, hearing, so that you can really experience the reality that you want to in a visualization inside your mental realm. The 11th tip I shared was to know what to do before, during, and after spell work. It's not just the spell that matters, the during part, but all of the preparation that goes into creating a spell, writing or finding a spell, cleansing and charging your tools and materials, gathering your tools and materials, whether you have to make them or buy them or repurpose something that you already have, and then what happens after the spell, making sure that you give yourself time to recharge and also to reflect on the experience. So there's all sorts of things that go into before, during, and after, and you can come up with your own system that works for you, but making sure that you have some sort of system for not just casting the spell, but what to do before and after as well. The 12th tip is to create a template for your spell work, for spell writing. So including all of the things that are necessary for a spell to work according to your practice and your belief system, and making it really streamlined so that you can create a spell for any purpose at any moment without really stressing about it. So you can use my spell template if you would like, or you could create one for yourself based on what you learned from my spell writing training. But basically getting to the point where you understand all of the different components of a spell, why things are included, and know how you can adjust spells that you found in a book or write them from scratch. And then the 13th tip that I shared was find a divination tool or practice that you really enjoy, whether you use a tool like tarot or scrying or anything like that, or you just have a divination practice that doesn't really require a tool, but doing something that will give you guidance and answers to any questions that you have surrounding your spirituality and your witchcraft practice. So those are all 13 of the tips, and if you want more information about any of these, this is basically the framework of Mumbles Academy's Witchcraft 101. So if you would like to learn more about these practices and tips that I've shared with you today, then make sure you join us in Mumbles Academy. Go to mumblesacademy.com and you can access Witchcraft 101, which will walk you through each of these steps from a wildling, somebody who is just coming into their awareness as a witch, as you go on the witch path to the creator, where you are in alignment with what you want and you know how to use your magic in a way that is creating the life you want to live. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.